Welcome all. As we are discussing Oedipus Rex of Sophocles, so far we have already discussed some of the important points of Oedipus Rex, and in the last lecture we discussed about the role of Jocasta, the queen or the mother of Oedipus. Today we will concentrate on the role of Creon. So there are different dimensions in the role of Creon, and we will highlight 4 to 5 themes in the role of Creon. The first of all, as you have already read the storyline and come to know that Creon is the father of Queen Jocasta. So the first characteristics that we can find from Creon is that he is a true servant of the state. He is a true servant to the Thebes, the country. He is simple and straightforward man, and we have also noticed that he is the bringer of a message from the oracle. So especially if we study the drama, we will find the quality that he has as a true servant of the state and also a simple and a straightforward man. If we consider Tiresias, if we think that Tiresias with his prophetic powers, and if we call him, describe Tiresias as the true servant of the gods, then role of Creon, that is the brother of Queen Jocasta, may also be regarded as the true servant of the state. When we meet Creon, just think about it. We meet Creon quite early in the play. In fact, in the prologue itself. In the prologue, we get the description of Creon that he returns from Delphi, where he had been sent by Oedipus to seek the oracle's guidance. Now, he has brought what he considers to be good news, the news that may lead to good results if all goes well. This particular news is most crucial for the people of Thebes and also from the point of view of the play. This particular news is indeed the starting point of the investigation which occupies the major part of the play, Oedipus. The news is that the murderer of King Laius lives on the very soil of Thebes, and the murderer must be killed or banished if the people are to expect any relief in the vast suffering which they are now undergoing. So this is the oracle that he brought. As Oedipus knows nothing about the history of King Laius, the previous king, now he questions Creon with regard to Laius' death. Now, what was the incident and how was he murdered, all these things. Oedipus wanted to know, and Creon gives a simple, straightforward description of the circumstances of Laius' death as known to him. And his knowledge and his informations about the murder was not first hand. He was not present there when the previous King Laius was killed. That he got the information, Creon got the informations of the murder from the survivor of the small group of person attending upon Laius. So at this stage, we do not have enough data, enough information to form a proper estimate of the character of Creon at the very beginning of the play from this particular incidents, that is bringing the news bringing the oracles, and also describing the incidents of murder. But judging by his appearance, his talk, his speech, particularly to Oedipus, he is a well meaning sort of person. We can judge, we can think that he is a well meaning sort of person, and he is free from any kind of deceit, any kind of trickery. So, up to this, we can consider him as a good man. Now, another important characteristic of Creon is that Creon's able reasoning power, particularly when we see his defense of himself in front of Oedipus. We next meet Creon after Oedipus has had a quarrel with Tiresias, in the course of which Oedipus has expressed his suspicion that Creon, in collaboration with Tiresias, planned a conspiracy against the king, against Oedipus. Having come to know what Oedipus has said about him, Creon arrives and he has a brief talk with the member of the chorus present there. He says that Oedipus has brought a grave charge against him, which he finds hard to endure. He seems to have been stunned, surprised, astonished by this kind of charge. He says that he would rather die than be guilty of doing any kind of harm to Oedipus, either by any plan, any plot, any conspiracy. So he was a clean man, as he wanted to say in front of the chorus. The chorus tries to also, the group of chorus also uh, tries to soothe him, comfort him by saying that Oedipus spoke the offensive words, maybe in a fit of anger. On being asked by Creon whether Oedipus had alleged that Tiresias had been instigated by Creon, the chorus confirms what Creon has heard. At this particular point, Oedipus appears and directly accuses Creon of treason and conspiracy against him. Now, Creon would like to explain his positions, but Oedipus hardly lets him speak. But Creon tried to explain his position, his innocence. However, Creon does not get an opportunity to speak freely in his self-defense, and the speech he makes shows his powers of reasoning and also the powers of that's just you remember the thing that his speech gives us the idea of his power of reasoning, though his eloquence falls flat on Oedipus. That means Oedipus did not believe so, but his powers of reasoning are very much important. So if you are going to write any answer on Creon, you must highlight the point that the Creon's power of reasoning, of defending himself. He, that is Creon, argues that he would be the last man to desire Oedipus' throne, and the questions of his plotting conspiracy against Oedipus, Oedipus' life does not arise. He is leading a quiet and a carefree life, according to him, according to Creon, and he is at the same time uh, had already had a leading a great influence in the city by virtue of his close relationship with Oedipus. So, as a moderate man, he desires nothing more. And if you think of kingship, kingship would not please him more than his present status that he possesses, that he does, he is not so foolish as to seek more honors than are good for him. So these are the logic that he was producing with powerful reason, with powerful reason. So this thing is very much important. And we see at the last, while the chorus supports Creon in what he said, what he produced, Oedipus rejects Creon's plea, rejects Creon's appeal, and says that he will punish Creons for his treasons. How? With death, death sentence. The speech, particularly the speech that Creon makes in his self-defense, shows his transparent honesty, loyalty, good reason power, though Oedipus is at this time blinded by his prejudice. So this characteristic is very much important. Now, Creon is a man who speaks on the basis of sure knowledge. Two other remarks which Creon makes in the course of this interview with Oedipus are very much important. Just you keep it in your mind. He does not presume to say than he actually knows. That means he speaks on the basis of sure knowledge. And what he knows, he will freely confess. The first observation shows that Creon does not indulge in idle speculations. That means what he knows, he speaks, he says so. And while the second remark shows that he will not hide anything what he knows. Both these qualities of his character raise him in our estimation. That means both these two qualities makes us great, makes before us great. Now, another thing is very much important, Jocasta's faith in him, and also the faith of the chorus in character Creon. Creon enjoys the full confidence of his sister Jocasta. How? As soon as that is Jocasta, learns about the quarrel between Oedipus and Creon, Jocasta, calls both men, Oedipus and Creon. When Creon complains that Oedipus has unjustly sentenced him to death or charge of conspiracy, treason, and promises that he has always been loyal to Oedipus, Jocasta herself pleads to her husband on Creon's behalf. She asks the king, Oedipus, to believe Creon's oath, promise. This is Jocasta's faith in him, in Creon. The chorus supports Jocasta's petition. They point out that Creon has never in the past played false to Oedipus. So, at the request of Jocasta and the chorus, Oedipus certainly withdraws the sentence of death against Creon, but does not cease to suspect him of treasons. So both Jocasta and the chorus both have full faith in Creon. All our sympathy in this scene is with Creon, and we deplore Oedipus' hasty judgment. We don't like his hasty judgment in condemning an innocent man on the basis of a mere speculation, suspicion. So our feeling, our sympathy, our thing goes with Creon, and this is supported by Jocasta's faith and also the faith of the chorus. So this element is also important, highlighting, describing the character of Creon. Again, Creon's consideration for and kindness to blind Oedipus is also important. His faith, his pity in the oracles is also important, especially his kindness to blind Oedipus. And it can be seen in the final scene. In the final scene, Again, Creon gives a good account, good description of himself and reinforces the favorable impression which we have already formed of Creon. Again, it repeats. He tells Oedipus, who is now completely blind, that he has not come to exult at Oedipus's downfall or to reproach Oedipus for his past misdeeds. Though at the same time he would not like the unclean Oedipus to remain outside the palace in the full light of the day. A sinner like Oedipus must not expose himself to public view. This is the opinion of Creon. He himself says so, that a sinner like Oedipus must not expose himself to the outside, to public view. Out of consideration for the paternal feelings of Oedipus, Creon has already sent for Oedipus's daughters, so that he may be able to draw some comfort from their company. So he is a good man. He has already sent for Oedipus's daughters. Now, Creon's kindness and consideration towards the man who had unjustly accused him of conspiracy, treason, and had almost taken his life, further raise him in our regard. That means we regard him as a greater personality by judging, by discussing, by thinking all these qualities of Creon. Okay, Creon is now the king and has all the authority of a king. But kingship does not turn his head. At the end of the play, the kingship, the power, does not turn his head. His religious pity has not diminished one whit. That means he remains in the same position as when the play starts. As we have found Creon, he remains the same when he became king by default. He believed in prophecies, oracles before, and he believes in them still now. His reverence for the oracle, his respect for the oracle, and everything suffers no decline. So he remains the same, still believing the oracle and the prophecies and the all. And he repeats what he had previously said. And what was his comment? Quote, I do not speak before my knowledge. I do not speak beyond my knowledge. So this is the quote that I mentioned here. It is the word of Creon taken from the play itself. I do not speak beyond my knowledge. So this sentence actually exemplifies the character of Creon. So Creon's character may be summed up in these words that I have described. And what are the words and what are the characteristics? Number one, self-restraint, self-control, moderation, avoidance of excess of all kinds, and speaking from sure knowledge only. So these 3 and 4 features of his characters are very much important. And in examination, you have to describe these 4 or 5 features very carefully. Now, again, I am repeating. Creon's character can be summed up, can be described in some qualities that he possesses. And what are the qualities? Number one, self-restraint, self-control, moderation, avoidance of excess of all kinds, and speaking from his sure knowledge only, not beyond that. As he himself says, I do not speak beyond my knowledge. So today we have completed the role of Creon. I think that you have got the idea of the role. In the next lecture, we will be discussing some of the other factors, other issues, other themes, other characters of Oedipus Rex. Try to listen this video and try to understand the role. Thank you.